All right, so now in this video, we are going to focus on mixing the keys and also the guitars. Let's take a look at the keys for a moment. I'm going to just open up my console so that I can see a little bit more information, and let's just double click to realign these sends. If we take a look at both of these keys, these are both actually routed to a bus, and this bus is a stereo bus. So let's have a quick listen. Okay. Well, the first thing I want to do is I actually want to turn these into objects. So instead of being routed to the beds, the 7.1.4 bed, I want these to be routed as a 3D object. Now, these are both mono tracks, so these are going to be mono objects. In order to do this, first of all, I need to take these out of the keys bus. But we need to take note of whatever processing that's happening on these tracks. So if I double click this, notice we have a Pro Q3, which is just doing a basic filter. First things first, let's just drag and drop this onto both of these tracks so that this plugin is being applied there. And now I can get rid of this. It doesn't matter anymore. And then also we have chorus and we have a room reverb. I want to take both of these effects, this effects chain, and I want to drag and drop this to both because we are no longer going to be sending this directly from here. Now, this track at this point, we actually no longer need this. We can right click and we can just remove this. So we've just eliminated this. We have to be careful that we don't create any feedback loops here. Both of these are being sent to the chorus, and then the chorus was being sent to the room reverb as well. Let's get rid of this send so that we're not doubling up on anything. Okay. So now, in order to transfer these to a spatial object or change them, all we need to do is right-click and change the panner. But if we take a quick look over here, each one of these is a mono track, and it has very specific panning information that was basically borrowed from when it was just routed to a stereo track. So I'm going to select both of these. We'll hold down Shift, highlight both of these. We'll right-click, and we'll choose Spatial Object Panner. Let's have a quick listen to the keys left. Okay, so I like that, but I might want to give it a little bit of elevation. We'll move that over a little bit. Okay, that sounds good. Now we're going to go over to the next one. Okay. I've made just a few changes over here, but in general, I like where it was sitting. I want to play these against everything. Let's bring in the percussion as well. That feels good to me. Let's also bring in the bass. And let's bring in the drums. Okay, perfect. Now, I want to take care of this effects chain. So this effects chain is routed directly to the main outs. Now, at the moment, this is a stereo track that's being routed to the main outs. Let's get rid of this unneeded plugin. And if I double click here, so this is basically, we're not listening to the direct. We're just listening to a wet and dry, or a wet version. And this basically is just has a little bit of pitch shifting and then some time delays. What I'm going to do with this effects track is I'm going to bring this back. I'm going to adjust the spread, and I want this effect to come out of the left side surround and the right side surround. So now if we listen to this, we should have the feeling or the perception. If I open up the level meter over here, if we take a listen, you should see the left side surround and the right side surround that are being activated. And I guess more specifically, I should say that if I solo both of these tracks, we'll do it from here. If I was to kill the effects for both of these, notice that nothing happens because it's coming out of the sides. Okay, so that's what's happening with this chorus effect. Now, the other thing I need to do is I need to take a look at the room reverb because I mentioned that I wanted to revisit this in a little bit. The room reverb for these tracks, what is it going out to? If I was just using the Studio One version of room reverb, it would be so easy to fix this. All I would have to do is, let's first of all scroll over and find this effect. We'll go over to, here it is, right over here. If I was using room reverb, because it'd be a native Studio One plugin, all I would have to do would be to adjust this and set this to 7.1.4, and this would automatically readapt, and we could use the exact same effects send from all the channels, and it would all of a sudden make that reverb immersive. But I'm actually not. I'm using the Phoenix verb instead, and this is a reverb that I was using a lot when I mixed this particular album. This is a really nice sounding reverb, but it's a stereo reverb. So if we take a listen to this, and let me go back to my keys over here for a moment. Let's press play. Okay, that reverb is being used by a lot of different things. I want to show you a trick that is really unique to Studio One. And even though this is moving on a little further, and it's something that I'm going to be addressing later on in the course, because the majority of these tracks are using that room reverb, I'm going to show you a way that we can use some really cool effects remapping to kind of like malt this out. So the first thing I'm going to do is, instead of this being a stereo, I'm going to change this actually to a 4.0 music. So now, notice what happened here. When I changed this to a 4.0 music, every single one of the effects panners on the sends that are being sent out to this room reverb, they all updated. So now we have left and right, and we have left and right in the front, and then we have the left and right rear surrounds. Okay. I want this reverb to not necessarily be up and down and all around me and in front of me, but I definitely want it to be in front of me and behind me. So that's the first step. The next step is that I'm going to Option or Alt drag to make a copy of this effect. Now in Phoenix Verb, if we take a look at this wrench icon, notice that we have mapping. Left and right is going to left and right. Phoenix Verb 2, which I've just made a copy of this over here, if we click the same thing, I'm going to drag and drop these so that the left and right mapping goes to the rear surrounds. Now all I have to do is, for any track where I want to basically be using like a 4.0, I am just going to go into the actual sends. And now all I have to do is I can now click, hold and drag, Alt or Option drag. So we'll start off with keys left because we already have this soloed over here. I'm going to Alt or Option drag right over here. And in this one, now we have our effects sends. So we have our chorus, which is going here, and we know what we did with that. We just panned this out to the side surrounds. So that's going to be okay because it's just giving a little bit of spread, and I want to hear it in the middle. The room reverb, the very first send, is going out, and it's basically sending to a stereo instance of left and right. But then here's the trick over here. If we double click the surround panner of the one that we just pulled, check out what happens over here. If I go minus 180, this will now basically flip this backwards. So now we are actually sending out the opposite. So if I close this for a moment and we go over to the room reverb track, take a look at what happens over here. This instance now is going to be listening to the left rear surround and the right rear surround. So now what ends up happening is that we basically have two sends, which are being sent essentially to the same bus, but we've used effects mapping to remap this. The reason why I'm showing this is because this is such a useful tool. If you don't have the financial resources to invest in brand new immersive or multi-channel surround reverbs, there are some workarounds that you can use. In this case, I'm just basically using another send instance, and then I'm able to take this, and I can now hear this. If I just take a look at what's happening here, actually, let's put a mix tool on. We'll go to the mix tool, and I can now hear this. If I mute the front surrounds, and I move this up, I'm hearing that now happening behind me in terms of the reverb sounds and everything like that. So this is a really easy way to be able to get multiple instances. It's basically just duplicating the actual effect and then going to the remapping so that this one over here, instead of listening to the left and right, it is now listening to what's being sent from the rear surrounds. And then on your actual source tracks, any channel that you want to send from, instead of having your panner for the actual surround panner on the send, instead of having the send surround panner be right over here, and I'm just going to double click so I can open this. Instead of having it be sent from left to right in the front, I'm just swapping this around to minus 180. And now we are sending this reverb in the back. So I can now just drop this right over here. And now this is a really quick and dirty way to be able to take an existing stereo reverb and turn it into just like a quad surround reverb. So let's listen to both of these. Momentarily, I just want to take both of these and let's go to pre-fader just for a moment. We'll do this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to deactivate the fronts, and let's just take a listen now. If we unsolo these and we go to the effects return right over here, and we solo just this track. I'm hearing that behind, which is awesome. Okay, let's go back and fix all the routing that we did over here. So this will be, all of these will be post fader, and all of these will be activated. Okay, so now anytime that I'm using room reverb for any one of these tracks, which is actually quite a lot of these tracks are using room reverb, I can basically just duplicate the send, just like this. Again, Alt or Option, we'll click, hold, and drag. And then on this one right over here, so this is the guitar bus. If I double click here, this is being sent out to left and right. But if I double click this one over here, I can now just go to -180. And also, let's go for the spread. I want this to be -100. That'll flip. So our left and right and the left and right, it needs to be -180 and -100%. Now this is a great way to be able to take this. And now we've done the exact same thing for our guitars. Now for the guitars, I want to do the exact same thing here. So we did our keys. Let's do the exact same thing. We're going to turn the guitars into spatial objects. Instead of using the Dolby Atmos panner, I want to turn these into objects as well. So our first step would be taking the routing from the guitars and basically going, instead of going out to the guitar bus, we just want to go out to the main outs. The next step would be that all of the effects chains, I'm going to click, hold, and drag to copy this effects chain across all of these. Now I can deactivate this. I no longer need this track whatsoever at all. It's not being used for anything at all. So I can just select this track, right click, and I can remove it. And now my last step will be shift selecting all of these, and let's change these to spatial object panners, and let's solo each one of these one at a time. Okay, that's center panned, potentially for a reason. What about this? Okay, I need a little bit more screen real estate. Maybe we'll go in a section where they're both playing, which would be right over here. Okay, so we'll start with this. And we'll go to this. Okay, those two are kind of anchored in the center. I'm not sure why that is in context of the mix, but I don't really want to fight my decisions that I made. Okay, this one, let's double click this. Now we're going to go over to the next track over here, which we had panned out. So that was this one. Let's go now to this one and let's hear what this is doing. And I want to hear these playing, all of three of them. And also I need to bring in my other elements because I want to listen to everything together, right? So now we bring in our keys, we can bring in our percussion, we'll bring in our bass and our drums. Okay, so that is sounding good, but the thing that I want to kind of make mention of is let's take a look at what's going on with the level meter. Already I'm getting a nice sense of space. The idea here is we're not trying to reinvent the wheel and completely change this mix. The mix was already signed off on. The mix already sounds good. This is the stereo mix. Perfect. So I think we're in good shape. In the next video, we're going to explore things a little bit further. I think we should probably take a look at creating some VCA masters. And in addition to that, we can also explore working with the lead vocal. We need to bring the lead vocal up. And I don't necessarily want to take the exact same approach for the lead vocal, but we also did make some effects prints, which I think are going to come in very handy. So instead of having to do that complicated thing where we have to duplicate different instances of the exact same plugin and then create new send chains, we can quite simply duplicate the effects chains, the actual effects returns that we printed. Just have to activate these. We can create as many duplicates as we need and then spread these out and pan these out throughout the room. We could even use the actual prints that we did in addition to one instance of the effects return, which is currently running in stereo left and right. So that might be useful. So we'll catch you for more in the next video. Cheers.